second for a couple of weeks, and then as of late, just haven't been doing so well. So
yeah.
The Korean practice seems to be working out for him in hardest form because I've been watching his stream and he's been playing very, very well. Again, it just seems like a lot of VG players are starting to move towards hardest form a little bit, and so it's not working out for them so well in Pro League. But again, in these IPTL matches, they have been putting on a show, so let's see if Stefano can keep up with it as well.
All right, Cloud Kingdom, not really a surprising choice from him given what's left in the map pool. Not like we were going to see Antigua Shipyard or anything like that. Don't worry, guys, we have significant map pool changes that are actually coming. You've already gotten a taste of the Heartless War map pool that we had with yesterday's Fight Club between Creator and Creator and Polt.
Yeah. And then also on the Twilight Council, we announced all the map pools as well. So if you guys want to know what the map pools will be for IPTL, you certainly can go check them out there as well, because we announced them out on our YouTube, youtube.com/IGN Pro League. Got some pretty cool maps, man. Pretty excited for all those to finally start occurring and really getting some maps played with the community maps that were recently chosen.
All right. Well, no surprises from our players quite yet. Yoda going for a 1-Rex gasless fast expand. Stefano going for a hatch first. And things, of course, are going to stabilize here for a couple of minutes. Don't we really understand what they're going to be doing. On this map, creep spread is of paramount importance. You can outright deny your opponent's bases, as Stefano's own teammate Jadong has demonstrated for us time after time after time again here. So that's going to remain very, very important. Stefano's largely going to be playing for the late game, too. Broodlords are really, really strong because of the amount of high ground possibilities you have and the ability to duck away from those ranged Marines and stuff like that. You can just imagine an engagement where you have infestors and such firing from the top here, a bunch of bio units that are around the side, but they can't range against the Broodlords that are sitting right over the top of everyone else. Yeah,
that's why people really enjoy having Cloud Kingdom in the map pool, because it's a decent distance to your opponent to where you can do decent 2-2 timings and a nice amount of ground pushes across the middle of the map. But when you get to late game, because of how all the high grounds and everything is set up, you have a lot of positional battles with your tier 3 units. So the map really just excels at putting on awesome games overall. So it's really cool. You can play pretty much any style if you want on the map. And it looks like we're going to be having a quick third potentially here for Stefano, as he's starting to save up some resources here. He's, oh, nope, he followed up into double queen, so
yeah,
he will not be doing so.
Okay, so double queen coming up now, potentially 4 here in just a moment. We'll see what he does after these first 2 are complete. Yoda, of course, finishing up his secondary expansion. He's already started mining gas, so just 1 refinery for the time being, though, so we'll see if he goes for that quick third command center, or if we're going to see, and indeed, yeah, as soon as I say that, the 3rd command center pops down.
Cool. Going to go for the really super strong mid game. Wants to sit around for a little bit and hope that Stefano doesn't get aggressive. Stefano, occasionally here and there, will play mutas, but for the most part, doesn't really go for a really strong mid game aggressive tactics. He usually does a lot of defensive play, if you will, and then falls up into counterattacks. Occasionally here and there, you'll have a couple of pokes at your 3rd that he may do, but I never see him really go for straight-up all-ins onto his opponent, unless, of course, they're just being like stupid greedy in a best-of-3 series, like 3 command centers every single game. So shouldn't see anything too crazy from Stefano, and Yoda kind of knowing that, just playing it to that type of style.
All right, well, Supply Depot, neutral Supply Depot, unfortunately, the greatest casualty in all StarCraft matches. Never does anything to anyone except kind of just is in the way, but always gets punished for it.
Poor guy. Just like grass when we're mowing. We want to have good-looking yards, but
I guess so.
The grass we just kill off. Looking into Stefano, should be grabbing a 3rd base pretty soon. He does have his 2 gases, hasn't moved into a 3rd and 4th yet. If he doesn't grab a 3rd very soon, he may do a weird all-in, but it's getting to the point where it's kind of too late for that, so I'm really expecting his 3rd hatchery to pop up very soon. Ooh, moving into a 3rd gas. Where is the lair?
Yeah, I know. I'm waiting for the same thing, but he keeps using his minerals as they keep popping up, now starting with a couple of evolution chambers. Pointing out, though, on Yoda's side, we do indeed have 2 factories well on the way, so we could see big Blue Flame Hellions, which it looks like with the Tech Lab now popping on, that's probably what we're going to see, at least for the time being, but mech certainly not out of the question on this map. For the time being, though, Stefano going for that layer tech right now. 4th gas on the way, still just on 2 hatcheries.
All right, starting up those upgrades, we'll be grabbing +1 range, so he might be doing his Roach Hydra play.
Yeah, I think so.
His Roach Hydra fell off a little bit because he kept doing it in Pro League, and then players figured out how to kind of stomp it, so he stopped playing it as much, but he's going to be pulling it out here. And Wings of Liberty, it's actually gotten really strong in Heart of the Swarm because of the speed buff that you're allowed to have. You're able to maneuver a little bit better, but We'll see him pull it off here in Wings of Liberty once again.
This is kind of... Okay, so we have cool things happening on both sides. Yes, Roach Hydra happening, because in this day and age where Infested Terrans can't take advantage of missile attacks, you only go for missile attacks if you're super, super confident you're going to stay on units that actually require those. Nice job picking off the drone there that was heading over to make a third hatchery. And we see, actually, if this ends up becoming Stim, is this going to be a Stim Marauder timing?
No, he's going Blue Flame.
Well, no, he has Blue Flame, but
wow.
he's researching Stim at the same time. What I'm saying is he could be doing that pull to two-base attack, which is... No, he's actually just going into... I actually don't know what to call this. We have two factories. We have Blue Flame Hellions and Siege Tanks and Marauders all being produced, along with double engineering base for now, so a little bit different approach.
He's just going for really strong firepower. He's essentially just going to pop in. And normally against a Zerg that's going for double evolution chamber with Ling style, it would essentially make him pull back, get a couple of queens out, and lose out on his third base. He kills off the third base, it keeps him on two bases. The thing is, Stefano's gone for a two-place play with Roaches, so he's going to be able to defend this pretty easily, to be honest with you. The whole play here for Yoda was to stop third base and expand to his third, and going for a really late game with the double engineering bay.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work out that way because of Roaches being out.
And he actually canceled Blue Flame throughout the whole process, so didn't bother with finishing that up. So despite the kind of unconventional opening for these players, we've taken a step back for the time being. 1-1 upgrade's about to finish up now for Stefano as his layer is done. He's got Roach speed on the way, Zergling speed, and we're liable to see that Hydralisk end here in just a bit too.
That's a really smart play from Yoda, to be completely honest with you. Canceling out that Blue Flame, retaining the resources, and moving straight into siege mode. That's what you want to have against Roaches. When they start moving across the middle of the map, they group up really easily, and you want to be able to put area effect damage down and get rid of them as quick as possible, because Hellions won't do much against it. The thing is, Stefano is just walking across the middle of the map. Look at all these Roaches he's created. Looking really good here. The thing is, we do have Marauders out for Yoda, though, plus Stim, so gotta be careful. This
was a dedicated 1-1 Roach attack, because we see he's following this up with +2 Carapace, but +1 melee attack. So this was just designed to do massive amounts of damage right now.
Well, siege mode is, Siege Tank is on the high ground with siege mode. Can't really go into those SCVs, can try and deny his command center for a little bit, but as time progresses, Yoda will be able to get Siege Tank on the low ground, and he does so, and the Roaches are now pushed away. And now, if he finished Blue Flame Hellion and kept up with the production of Blue Flame Hellion, this whole push would have killed off this natural, or at least made it force to lift and kill off SCVs. But because Yoda was really intelligent, saw that no third was up, and came into the natural and saw Roaches being created, he decided to go ahead and cancel it and move into siege mode, which allowed him to defend that. Yoda is pretty far ahead right now, to be honest with you. Yeah, I really like where he's at. That's a really great point, to be perfectly honest, because now Stefano is stifled in a few different places, because even though he's going to have this very fast hive tech, which he did basically gun it for it after his Roach attack was kind of being stopped. Oh gosh, scan. Yeah, I know. Perfect scan, picks up on the exact timing of hive tech now, so that's kind of a disaster for Stefano. He still does have strong defensive play. He's going to have pathogen glands. His economy still looks good, but the problem is his opponent's economy is better. He's going to be on... He's already finished with 3 orbital commands. He has a glut of workers. He's going to have an instantly saturated third base with 5th and 6th gas available to him, and it'll be very easy for him to transition into his eventual 4th. Now, I like... Stefano has one nice little touch here. His creep spread is going everywhere, yes, but he's concentrated on spreading it to his opponent's 4th as quickly as is humanly possible, because he knows that if he cedes another base like that to his opponent, this game is not over, but it's very difficult to try and come back from. Oh, I really like the strategy overall. Notice how he went for the 1-1 to the Roaches to try and kill off the natural. If you kill off a good 10, 12 SCVs, you can pull back, and your Lings will benefit from the +1 Carapace. And for the most part, Lings, they do high DPS already, so if they have that Carapace and they're able to get into an army that will come for a counterattack, you can crush it pretty easily. So I liked all the follow-ups. Unfortunately, just with the read from Yoda, it didn't work out as well. So not knocking on Stefano in any way, shape, or form. His build was pretty awesome. It just didn't line up the way he wanted it to. Now, here's where I will give Stefano, though, is that he does have a very nice defensive force. His tech is all perfect. He's already going to Ultralisks, Adrenal Glands, +3 Carapace. So many things hitting for him at the same time that he's simultaneously expanding to his 4th and 5th base. And Yoda's going to get in a situation where if he waits for about 3 minutes before he decides to put on any pressure, even with drops or whatever the case is, Stefano's going to be able to take that macro advantage and throw it right back in his favor. Yeah, you're so right there. Even with +2 coming out for Yoda, the upgrades, everything's going to be so good here for Stefano. The Adrenal Glands, Baneling speed especially added with that creep spread. Reinforcements will be so darn good, especially off of 5 bases now here. For Stefano, he'll have so many minerals here. You can just keep throwing Lings across the middle of the field here. He's got a macro hatch. I would actually like to have one more macro hatch just because he'll have so much larva, especially with Lings. He'll be so larva starved. But yeah, everything's going to be lining up for him, and Yoda doesn't look like he wants to push out quite yet. He's got 2-2 a good 30, 40 seconds away, so he's going to wait until he has 2-2 available before he even starts moving out.
And Roaches just kind of playing with some of the forces, but as we can see, Stefano has now completely covered his opponent's fourth and is dragging his creep inside of his third. So Yoda is in a little bit of a testy situation. Now, this is precisely the moment when Stefano has established a bunch of bases in tech, but hasn't really received the benefit of any of it yet. So if the attack is able to get in and do damage right now, it's going to be difficult for Stefano to be able to reproduce this army, and that's where Yoda's going to find his advantage. But if he lets a bunch of his tanks get killed right here by a couple of Roaches, that would be a disaster.
Jeez, man, the guts here of Stefano just running straight on in, sniping off 3 siege tanks there. Yeah. Almost a 4th. He got some free damage on another one as well. Well, not free damage, but got damage done on another siege tank. Really well done there. At this point, it's worth it to throw away the Roaches. They do nothing for you, really, when it comes to a Marine Marauder competition. They'll just shred right through them. So that frees up supply, allows them to get more Ultras out, and Stefano's looking really good here, man. He's got a flank available in the top left corner, running straight on in. Lings coming in from behind. The siege tanks were unsieged. Ultras churning on through. A perfect engagement there for Stefano, and he's going to crush a majority of the siege tanks.
Oh, yeah. All the siege tanks are now dead. Fungal's hitting the rest of the bio forces, and Zerglings can just kind of flood in and clean up the rest. Even Ultralisks, as not as cost-effective as they are in Wings of Liberty, are still going to be more than enough to continue the pressure here.
I mean, yeah, they do the damage, and they're pretty good tanks overall. You have the Ultras run in, they soak up the siege tank damage, and the Lings are the real damage dealer, especially with that adrenaline glance. And wow, that was, I'm just so amazed at the engagement there for Stefano, because Yoda was aware of it. He had a sensor tower up. He just sieged just a little bit too late, and therefore Stefano was able to crush that army. He's such a good killer instinct.
And now Stefano has received a benefit from these bases. So he's on essentially 5 base plus a 6 hatchery for production. He can instantly reproduce his forces. He's kept up with his larva inject, so as soon as that first force had died, immediately all of his resources went into producing Ultras and Zerglings.
All right, gonna catch up a couple more Marines here as well, trying to slow down that creep. Got to make sure they run away from there. And at this point, look at the creep down in the bottom right corner. It's really decentralized this 4th base. You do not want to allow it to happen. Kevin was completely correct, guys. Him just going straight for that creep and getting on the 4th. His whole entire idea here is just now to really starve out Yoda. Constantly keep crushing his army, keep up with resources, just try to prevent drops from happening. As you see in the top left corner, he's had the creep go around here to make sure drops never sneak on by, rather than trying to push it into the middle of the map. Such a smart play here from Stefano.
And he's going to be able to pick up on this fairly early on. Also has that Overlord at the top left, so he should be able to shift back some forces pretty soon. And you're right about trying to starve him out, because the army composition that he has right now is Zergling Ultralisk. Running through a choke, it'll die very quickly to siege tanks. Not to say that that would even throw it back in Yoda's favor, but he'd trade inefficiently. He wouldn't break through and do that much damage, and it's not really worth just wasting that amount of stuff over and over again. So all he wants to do is he wants to sit back. He wants to ensure that his opponent never takes a 4th. You can be sure that he'll be pressuring this as soon as it lands, and then just make sure that he controls the game from there on out. Sits on 6 bases and wins.
All right, looks like the drops will make their way on in, though. Stefano not quite paying attention to his mini-map here. So we have a little small force in the main with Stem. Is going to go ahead and pick up and run away, but this one down in the bottom right corner is focusing down this hatchery. Stefano finally gets on over there, and we'll try to deal with it. Going to use transfuse as well, and at the same time preventing that 4th in the top left corner. That's been his main focus. Do not allow my opponent to get any expansion.
Yeah, absolutely right. So looks like these forces are dropping back down once again, but they're going to be killed immediately by this. The Queen may actually end up falling here. Really nice heads-up play there by Stefano to actually get out a last transfusion onto this hatchery before that Queen would have died with one more shot, but thankfully for him, it stays alive.
Well, it's doing a good job of trying to get the drops done. One thing that really sucks about going for Ling Bane, Ling Ultra is it's really hard to defend against drops. Got to kind of leave Infestor Sprout out and try and land good fungals, or essentially just kill off the ground army while the medevacs are able to go back home. So as long as you just try to drop, you eventually will get one to make its way on through. And here comes the engagement. Ling's running in straight again.
And this is the whole game right here for Yoda. He has to be able to hold this off so he can secure his 4th base, because if he doesn't secure his 4th base, that is going to be all she wrote. And look at that. We talked about Ultralisk and Zerglings running through a little choke point with that many siege tanks, and they're dealt with very, very effectively. So Yoda holds on to this. He can land his command center, turn it into a planetary fortress, and work on holding this. He only needs a couple of tanks over on the right-hand side, which he has to be able to defend this base against Zergling counterattacks. attacks, and all of his focus is now going to be on holding this base. And he could start to claw his way back in at this point. His opponent isn't on the tech he would like. He's starting Spire at the moment, but that's still 100 seconds before it becomes Greater Spire. He still needs to make Corruptors. He still needs to turn them into Broodlords. So that's a few minutes away, and Yoda can begin to prepare in that time.
Yep, you're right, man. Stefano just trying to focus on getting into those Broodlords. It's going to need to sacrifice some units, though, as he is already at 195 supply. It needs to, of course, sprinkle a few around, but gotta be too careful. Sorry, stepping on a wire there.
No problem.
So Greater Spire has been queued up, and he's mixing more Infestors in as well, but he's going to go ahead and move on in, and charging forward with the Ultralisk will start getting on the Siege Tanks. His main focus here is to kill Siege Tanks off.
And look at that, he actually drew a lot of Siege Tank aggro from his forces on the right-hand side, which is largely composed of Zerglings that actually allowed the rest of the Ultralisk to get right up on top of the rest of the Siege Tanks, and quite a bit of damage is being done. At the same time, there was a drop over on the right-hand side. He cleaned up a few workers, but that was about all, and Stefano doesn't really care about that at this stage of the game. He did manage to finally take out that force, and he's going to be able to punish the Planetary Fortress, thus accomplishing the goal that he had set out to do before.
Alrighty, so does retain a few Ultralisk, drops her in the main, but he's been putting down some static defenses, so that slows that push down just a tad bit. Hatchery in the bottom right did get killed off, by the way, though, so a nice little victory there for Yoda.
Yes. But the fourth base of Yoda for the fifth base of Stefano is a trade that favors Stefano at this stage. So
yeah, certainly.
That was more of a moral victory than anything, getting that hatchery.
I mean, just look at Yoda in terms of minerals here. He's literally floating around 100, 200, not really able to get anything out. He just can't keep up with the macro because he's running out of resources. His main, if you look at the mini-map, it's just a big gaping hole. That's it, because he moved his command center up to the top left corner for that fourth. He got killed off, and he has no minerals in the main, so it wasn't worth it. So it's trying to get on up there, and we'll try to get that third base up and running again. But at this point, Broodlords are going to start popping out. Corruptors are about to finish up for Stefano.
Okay, so he has to be able to take this base, get an influx of resources, and hit before Broodlords actually strike him, and therein lies the problem. 7 Corruptors were already finished up. They're at various points across the map. Greater Spire is done, researching +1 weapons, and of course it's just going to be 40 seconds after those Broodlords start morphing in, and they're going to do that right now.
All right, getting a view on the map here. A hefty amount of Lings already as well, so he has a nice ground army to prevent any Marines from charging in underneath those Broodlords. Yep. Vikings are what is certainly needed here for Yoda, and he hasn't even started Viking production. He has nothing but pure medevac on the field here, so we can't really contest these Broodlords really that well unless Stefano makes a mistake.
Yeah, and Stefano is doing the best possible thing he can by just showing Zerglings again, not showing any sort of Ultralisk Infestor, whatever the case is, so it doesn't clue in Yoda that he needs to start switching in tech, because Marauders and tanks are now the last thing that Yoda needs.
Well, it's a nice little lift off there. Will prevent Stefano from getting a kill on that orbital, but still denying some mining time. Siege tanks do siege on up.
Oh, there's the scan, and it does see Broodlords.
All right, immediately Vikings are queued up. You see 2 at a time. And Stefano should see that scan as well. He was clicking on his army, I believe, at that point, so he should start moving forward and he'd start sieging away on that 4th base in the top left corner.
And now he's actually expanded down towards the bottom right, so he has an extra base in his arsenal. This game is actually taking quite a while now. Stefano still does have very nice control. Yoda has a large army, but not one that's equipped to deal with large amounts of Broodlords at the moment.
All right, he's moving forward. Finally, Corruptors leading the charge here in case there were any Vikings available. Can snipe off medevacs as well. Broodlords will be on top of this high ground, and they're going to start shelling away, and you can see that just Marauders and Marines, and Marauders do nothing against this army. Siege tanks do nothing against this army. It's just the Marines, really. And here we go. Ultra's going to start charging on forward right away. Corruptors dealing with the medevacs, and Broodlords shelling from far away. Nice bungles over everything here, and Stefano's composition is slowly building its way through this siege tank army.
Oh yeah, I mean it's not even slowly anymore. It's mostly just a few Broodlords left, but those were the only 5 that were created, and that's all that left. And Yoda knows it because he can't deal with those at all. It doesn't matter how many of those are actually on the field. He couldn't even deal with 1 at the moment, and that's a victory in the bag for Evil Geniuses.
Really, really nice game there. From both players, especially early on. I like the transition, though, from Stefano. It was really cool. He went 2 base into double evolution chamber, followed up into a lair, and he went for that +1/1 timing. And again, if Yoda hadn't read that correctly, I fear he may have lost the game way quicker. He, of course, canceled that blue flame, moved into siege mode, and just barely got it out in time to defend against the roaches. But with the roaches staying alive, because Stefano didn't sack them, he was able to hold mid-control of the game and just really move up into hive tech and get those upgrades turning away, which really allowed him to just hold that fourth base from ever from going up. It was really well done. I enjoyed watching that play.
Well, we're tied up again. It's
3-3.
3-3 now. We're going down to the wire. Minimum of 8 games in this set. Hopefully it will be 9. And coming up next, we're actually going to have our first mirror match of the night as LGIM throws in Lucira.
Oh, Lucira.
Yeah.
It's going to be a hard one. Stefano and his ZVZ does not bode well. Every time you watch him in a high-level game, except for IPL 3, he mostly loses those ZVZs. So we'll see what Lucira can do, guys. We'll run to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.